everyone, and welcome to this fun conversation. My name is Genevieve Young, and I'm having interviews or fun conversations with people that have been in Abraham Hicks' hot seat. So, in one of Abraham Hicks' seminar, and they've been in the hot seat, and I'm asking them questions on a certain topic. And today we're talking about two different topics. So it's the first time that I'll be doing this, but you'll see it makes a lot of sense that we'll be talking about emotions and alignment. And my guest is Tharyn Taylor. Hello, Tharyn.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Genevieve.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you for being there. So, Tharyn, I don't know if you've listened to other fun conversations that I had in the past, but I always have the two same questions for my guests, which
Okay.
are how have you discovered Abraham Hicks, and how many times have you been in the hot seat?
Those are wonderful questions. And how did I discover Abraham Hicks? Well, on my very 18th birthday, on the day, I was introduced to the movie The Secret. So that's when I saw and heard about the law of attraction. And then Esther is in the movie. And then a few years later, though, is when a spiritual friend of mine gave me the original CDs of a master course or something. And so I listened to that, and I've been hooked ever since. And I've been listening to Abe for about 11 or 12 years now, almost
Mm,
almost daily ish. There's been some
yeah,
breaks, but a lot of listening.
yeah,
And I've only been in the hot seat
yeah.
once.
Good. And I've listened to your hot seat and I love your hot seat. I think there's a lot of information in it, but there's profound information. That's what I feel. But anyways, we're going to go through the hot seat. What I do, I always segment the hot seat in three parts. So I choose like three different parts of it and we'll
Okay.
listen to it. We'll we'll listen we'll listen to it and then I'll ask you some questions about it. So, but
Perfect.
just before we go into the first part, I I wanted to talk about the steps, Abraham Hicks steps, the five steps, because you'll be
Mm-hmm.
so I wonder if maybe I could mute your mic just when the sound is too you still hear me, eh? Yeah, good, perfect. So I'm going to show the five steps on the screen, which are because you're talking about the step 5 in your question. So I want to make sure people know what you're talking about. So those are the five steps that Abraham is always talking about. So the first step is you ask and then source answers. That's the second step. Third step is you are in the receptive mode. And then the fourth step is you stay in the receptive mode as long as possible. And step 5 is you not being angry or disappointed because you're going back into step 1. So I just wanted to make sure people really understood what step 5 was before we started your the segment I'm gonna put right now on the first part of your hot seat. So let's go to that first part and then I'll have questions for you.
Sometimes you just know.
Exactly what we've been saying all day long.
So sometimes you just know.
Exactly what we've been saying all day long.
So I'm happy to be here. Hi, Abraham. It's great to be with you. I'm not surprised to be in the hot seat. And this is what I want to talk about, is because I love the way that I haven't necessarily heard of the step 5 or embraced it or fully integrated it. But it's what I'm living in. It's what I'm experiencing lately. And I want to just I want to hear more about this living in alignment because I feel this connection with my source.
The emphasis that step 5 points at is not being mad about being back in step 1. That's what step 5 is.
Okay.
Gracefully accepting that step 1 is a necessary step. Not being mad at myself for having step 1 moments. And not being stuck in them either.
And I feel like that's what enlightenment is. I guess I'm here to ask and clarify. That's what enlightenment is. It's to be in the world and not of it, because you don't suffer anymore because you see that the step 1 happens, or you see that this contrast is here, but you can...
And you don't suffer because you're no longer judging or blaming or pushing against.
Yeah.
You're just accepting it as variety from which you can choose.
So this is possible. This is truly possible to turn the suffering almost completely, it's gone.
Well, when you think about it, if you think about source in the way that most of you want to, sometimes people in the very early stages, when they're just contemplating step 1, 2, 3, sometimes they want this time-space reality to be absent of contrast. Why isn't there only good stuff for us, Abraham? If we are pure positive energy when we come, as you say we are, then why would we have to endure contrast? And we say, isn't it interesting that that which you want to call source knows the value of the contrast, and that you all knew it too, enough to be willing to come to participate in it. So you must have been in step 5 when you made the decision to come. What do you think?
Yeah. Okay. So I love that. I love, first of all, the part that you're talking about, not suffering no more. So Abraham says, there's no suffering because there's no blaming, no judging, and no pushing against. So, and you see the value of the contrast. Can you hear me? Oh, okay. So we lost Tharyn, but yeah, so that's the part I really love loved about that hot seat. And so we'll see if he comes back. But I think this is something to think about, like gracefully accepting step 1 and not being stuck in it. So meaning that whenever contrast is happening, whatever is, whatever is there, and you can recognize that there's value in it, you're not judging others, you're not blaming or pushing against, well, then it's easier to just, go back into the other steps and receive more, and then just do the 5 steps again. So I'm gonna put the part number 2 of Tharyn's hot seat, and if he's back, well, I'll ask him questions about it, but we'll see. Huh? Life is full of surprises.
What were your words to yourself? You were beating up on yourself. What were your words to yourself? You were beating up on yourself for not being productive?
In a way, yeah.
But what could be more productive than alignment? That's really the point you were making to yourself right then. And that's really the point that you made and acknowledged and aligned with. What could be more productive? Alignment trumps everything. One who is in alignment with that broader perspective is more powerful than millions who are not. That's where all of your leverage is. Everything else is just going through motions, but that's where all of your leverage is. That's where the divine ideas are received by you. They're always being revealed to you, but you're not always in the receptive mode. So when you take the time to let yourself have a walk in freedom, when you give yourself an opportunity to bask in the beauty of nature, when you get outside and breathe the air that for longer than time has even explained to you, Source has been focusing into the perfection that you now get to taste in your mouth. The perfection of every moment in time is known by the Source within you. And when you allow yourself to take a peek at that, that is the most productive thing that you could ever do, because now you're tapping into that energy. Now you're in the receptive mode, and now it's known not just by your source energy, but it's now known by you what steps will be most satisfying, which is to say which steps are most productive. Let's put those words together. The most productive is always what feels the best. Always, 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 always. What feels the best is the best. And sometimes you say, well, I took some steps and it didn't turn out that well. And we say, well, because you didn't keep feeling the best about it. You second guessed yourself, or you scolded yourself, or as you started to do on that trail, for just a moment, you felt like you were not being productive. And then you got hold of yourself and you gave yourself permission to like it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, hello, Tharyn. Okay, so you're back. You're good? Can you hear me, Tharyn? Okay, so in that second part, so can you hear me? Mm, I think he's
Can you hear me?
coming. Yeah. Yes, I can.
I'm sorry.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me too? That's
Yeah, I
okay.
can
That's
finally
okay.
hear
I
you.
have a bunch of questions for you. Good, perfect. So
So
we did listen to, yeah.
I had to move because they were cutting a tree out front of my yard, and then my audio messed up because I unplugged something. So I should be okay now. I will really apologize.
Okay, perfect. No problem. There's no problem. We're talking about alignment, and
Okay.
step 5, and not being mad at ourselves because we're going through contrast.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So interesting, eh? Yeah. So tell me. Yeah. I love that. So gracefully accepting step 1, that's what Abraham was telling you in the hot seat. So
Mm-hmm.
how would you, is there any things that you've integrated that allows you to accept easily being back into step 1 after going through contrast, like right now?
Yeah. Yeah. Right
Yeah.
now. Yeah. Even right now, my emotional state is very calm and centered. There's slight frustration, but it's very slight. And I think that it's not always about waiting to be in the moment to
Mm,
do the work. That just like Abraham always says, how do you get rid of doubt? You get rid of doubt before it starts. It's the same.
mm,
How do you get rid of frustration? And what is she really saying? She's saying, how do you be in step 5 instead of being in step 1? And which is being okay with the contrast and being okay with things that are unforeseen that you didn't necessarily want, or things that you wanted to go more smoothly. And it's very hard to do the work in the moment. So how do I do it in my life? And what I've learned from Abraham is that I've practiced a lot of meditation. I
mm.
really make it a commitment to myself to practice meditation in the mornings when possible, and to just try to get into that 30 seconds to 1 minute of alignment, even if it takes 15 minutes. Um, I've had a
Yeah.
I've had a really strong meditation practice for my entire life, so I I count myself lucky in that sense that I just have developed that habit, and it's not an easy habit for everyone, but I think that meditation is the most powerful thing to allow yourself to be more calm and centered and clear and connected and aligned when step 1 moments happen.
Yeah, I totally agree. I also love meditation. Okay, so the second part was about you being mad at yourself because you felt you were not productive enough. You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And then,
Yeah.
so Abraham tells you, like, what can be more productive than being in alignment?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want me
And
to elaborate?
Well, if you want to,
Or
I can keep
you,
on asking, but you can
yeah,
elaborate
yeah.
if you want to. I would appreciate. Yeah.
I think that Abraham just says it really well. Is that one who's in alignment is more powerful, and you could replace that with productive than millions who are
Mm,
not. More productive than millions who are not, and just like
mm,
and tuning into an idea that is of the same frequency of source, much closer and much higher and much purer,
mm,
much more momentum, much more powerful, much more manifesting power.
mm,
And
mm,
yeah, I think Abraham really hits on that. And if you feel into their words, when you feel into what they're actually saying, you get a sense of what it means to tap into genius, to tap into a really genius
mm,
moment where you have an idea that could change the trajectory of your entire life and or the trajectory of mass consciousness. Like those are the kind of
yeah.
thoughts that they're talking about. And
Mm,
when you touch upon
yeah.
those, it's really something.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why being in alignment allows you to receive those thoughts and then to be able to create with those thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there anything, so tell me about that hot seat, because I feel we're going to go to the last part very soon, talking, you wanted to know what source was, but I could feel through seat. Yeah,
Could you repeat the question?
that's
It cut out a
interesting.
little bit.
Yeah, that's it's very interesting what's happening. Okay, so I was saying, yeah. So being in alignment. So we're gonna go to the third part because I wanted you to elaborate on your your quest about source, because that's what I could feel like while you were in the hot seat. You wanted to know what.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We want to
Yeah,
define source
we're
in
gonna
emotional
listen to the third
terms,
part.
because source is
Be right
always
back.
presenting to you. When you are allowing source, you could feel any of these emotions. Any of these emotions. We want to define source in emotional terms, because source is always presenting to you. When you are allowing source, you could feel any of these emotions. Any of these emotions. Relief. Source is always an improved emotion.
So source is, it's the movement. It's not an actual
So
emotion.
if you
It's the,
are feeling resentful, source is the feeling of frustration, because it's a path of least resistance. Oh, you thought source was always up here. Source is right there where you are, leading you along your path of least resistance.
so source is just contrast.
Source is improvement in the way you feel. Source is calling you home to who you really are, to who you have caused yourself to become. Ooh, this is a really good
So
conversation.
source is, it's the movement. Source is the creation of the movement from where I am to my desire.
Yeah, your recognition of source is your improvement in the way you feel. So it's always bringing a little relief. And of course, at first it's a little relief, but once it gets rolling, then it's ecstasy, then it's passion, then it's enthusiasm, then it's friskiness. It's always an improvement. So source is always present with you, even in what you think are your darkest moments, because source never doesn't care. Source never focuses away from you. Always there. You've just got to be aware that it is, and then take the best clue that you're capable of taking from where you stand, and feel as good about picking up that clue as source is about being there for you to receive it. That was a good conversation.
I was surprised when I heard that. I was surprised when I heard that source could be frustration. That source was always like, the improved emotion. When I thought that source was always like only like joy or pure love, or so that really surprised me.
Yeah.
What about you? Like, you knew that that was clear for you that this was
No,
how it
I
worked?
that was a great new insight when I was in the hot seat for sure. I had not
Yeah,
quite. The hot seat was in 2015, so 6 years ago, and it really stuck with me for sure. Is the awareness to look for relief. The
yeah,
word that stuck with me from the hot seat was relief.
yeah,
Relief, relief. Any of these, she says, any of these emotions, relief.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
which is what she says all the time. Path of least resistance from where you are. Yeah.
Oh, so that would be relief. The path of least resistance is always releasing or feeling more relief. Oh, that's interesting. I've never seen it like that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
always the path of most relief, the path of least resistance, the path of most allowance, or the most relief in any given moment.
I like that. Thank you. That's a aha moment for me. Yeah, I really like that. Yeah,
I'm glad.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. So when Abraham says, looking through the eyes of stars, to like we can hear Abraham say that very often, you should be looking through the eyes of source. So it's not only looking through pure love, but it's whatever emotion you're living with some relief.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm trying to, because we know that, if you look at the scale of emotions and you're into fear, the relief after is insecurity. So insecurity would still be source.
Yeah.
So
Any calling.
that would
It's the movement. It's the movement towards
the
what you want.
movement of moving up the scale.
Yeah, because it has to be. Source is always revealing itself, so it always has to be a present moment conversation. And the only conversation that Source is having with us all the time that we have access to is our emotions, right? So we use our emotions in order to get to a place where then once you're more tapped in and tuned in, you can then experience Source in a much more intimate way through your eyes and through your ears, through actual visions, through spiritual visions, etc. But when you're not anywhere close, you're still connected and still having a conversation, and it doesn't go away. And that's such a beautiful gift that your emotions, and specifically relief in your emotions, is the most obvious path. It has to be the most obvious path. And especially when you're doing this work and you're on this path, you begin to realize that tuning into your body and your emotions in any moment is always your lifeline.
Hmm. Interesting. I really like that. So I wanted to know, like, what kind of transformation have you felt after the hot seat? What was your big takeaway from that?
My big takeaway was, I feel like it was for sure, it put me into the receiving more mode more, because I took her words I took her words about stop taking so much action in order to make my life better, in order to feel better. And that was a big component where I started relaxing more. I started really practicing what meditation begins to offer, which is more of an allowing mode lifestyle, like a whole lifestyle, not just in the moment, but an allowing lifestyle and going with the flow lifestyle. And while going with the flow, also actively listening to my emotions, and specifically for relief, because that piece clicked in. So it's not like I was listening for emotions like only joy, like, oh,
Mm,
I can only access source when I'm in joy, or I can only
mm,
know I'm in alignment when I'm in joy. That no
mm,
longer was a tripping point for me. And then
mm.
when you really integrate what Abe says here, you don't beat up on yourself that much anymore when you are in a mood, in a negative mood, or having a bad
Mm.
day. It becomes less about it becomes less self there becomes less self blame in myself over time for not being productive, right? Because
Yeah,
I'm a person who wants to work and get things done, and
yeah,
nowadays when I'm not productive, it happens, and sometimes I do feel negative emotions and I do follow that thought train, but I find it much faster and I notice it much faster. I treat myself much better. The transformation has been a lot less strong negative contrasting experiences. I My life doesn't really hold many strong contrast experiences anymore. Very few,
mm.
very few. Maybe twice in a whole year will I be
Well,
really,
would you say,
yeah.
yeah, would
Go
you
ahead.
say it's more because of your perspective about the contrast? Like you don't see it the same way you used to? Or is it really because the events are really not as big as they used to be before? You know what I'm saying? Like, is it only the perspective you're having on it? Because for myself, I know if a contrast comes to me, I don't have the same perspective of it. So before it was a drama, but now I know it's not, you know, I know it's a value that I'm adding to whatever is coming, but I didn't know that before.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. And that's so cool
Yeah.
to hear you say, because it is, what the less you react negatively and then blame or judge or justify or tell stories within yourself that are like negative stories justifying why that had to happen or anything like that. Those things don't come up and I don't ponder them. And so therefore, because I'm doing because my reaction is not so strong to negative events, they just get smaller and smaller over time. Over the years, they've gotten smaller
Exactly.
and smaller. And so actual literal events that are negative have happened few and far between. I'll
Mhm.
have a negative
Mhm.
day if I lose my car key. Like
Oh yeah.
that's the extent of some of, like, it's magic. I'm not even kidding. The work is magic, and I've been doing it for a long time, and the
Yeah.
results are real. I'm not living. I'm not like magnificently wealthy or anything, but I have enough to live a very healthy and comfortable lifestyle, and it's amazing. And I credit it 100% to actually tuning my thoughts to source and not reacting to things and meditating, like simple
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. And if you compare like productivity, how you saw it before and how you see it now. So let's say a friend comes to you and says, "Oh, I'm not productive enough. I would love to do more. I would love to." What would you tell your friend?
Well, I'd tell them to go to the movies or go do something fun and go on a walk or go on a hike, or give them something that they like to do, or ask them what they like to do that actually is engaging them in an enthusiastic way. Because I guess in my experience, that's when my best thoughts happen, is when I'm not.
Mm,
Oftentimes, it's not when I'm sitting down to work. It's when I'm in meditation. It's when I'm in nature, and then the ideas come, and then I write them down. And so that's what I would share with someone. I would say, try to meditate. Like, do, don't try to meditate in order to find the solution. Meditate because it's gonna feel good, and that's all you
yeah,
need it. That's all you need it to
yeah.
be.
So I'm curious to know your process. So once the idea comes to you, you write it down, and then what do you do?
I mean, if I'm feeling good in the moment, I'll write it down, and then I'll start writing more thoughts that are similar. Like, I'll sit there with the thought and let it brew, and write down other things about it that I like. I like this idea of it. Oh, it would lead to this. Oh, it would lead to more conversations with cool people. Oh, it would teach me these kinds of skills because I'm really interested in that. Oh, it would I like this aspect of it. Oh, it would feel good because some maybe it would bring financial abundance, or maybe this thought I like it because it will help me to be healthier, or it will help me to feel better about my relationship with this person. So these kinds of things. And I really like uh, I don't know if there's a specific process, maybe but just writing down off the top of my mind the the
What you
momentum. I like to
love,
write it.
your
Hmm.
dreams, your everything that makes you feel good, and you stop when you don't feel good no more. Is that what you do?
Yeah, I milk it until I'm satisfied. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, good. I love that. And then you see them manifesting in your life. You saw that happening often.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes not the specifics though. I really try to manifest in an emotional way. I I want
Mm,
to I really try to focus on why I want the things, what emotions I'm gonna
mm,
get from them, and I really try to
mm,
keep it mostly on that end of the spectrum versus specifics like I want this TV, or I want this person to be my partner, or I want this job because that job will for sure fulfill me. I really keep it back a step. I don't Sometimes I like specifics, but 90% of the time I'm keeping it into the emotional realm. And
mm.
I do manifest things that are a match to that for sure,
Yeah.
dozens or hundreds of times.
Yeah, I love that. I think, yeah, that's what I do also. So I love hearing it from you. So writing about the emotions, how we want to feel, how we love to be feeling, and just letting life, you know, just attracting whatever is going to fulfill all this. So yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly.
Thank you, Karen. That was so much fun. Thank you. I love your way
Hmm.
of being so calm and so aligned. You're very aligned and very calm and steady. Like you're, yeah, solid. I can say you're solid in your alignment. Yeah, I like that.
I
Thank you.
appreciate
It
that.
was it was a pleasure meeting you. Yeah, thank you for your time. Thank you for being there and for that fun conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. Bye bye.
Bye.
So thank you everybody for tuning in. I so much appreciate your presence. And so I'll see you next Monday for no, this week I'll be there on Thursday also with Jose Javier. So I can't wait to have a fun conversation with him also about alignment. So take care. We'll see you. I'll see you soon. Okay. Bye.